Hello everyone. So today in this first series of videos I'm gonna address my religious journey, which is mainly about Catholicism and how I was a really deep Catholic, and then going from that to what I am right now, which is more like spiritual, going towards being agnostic. So yeah, I would like to first explain the origins in Catholicism. So the main reason why I was a Catholic is because I was born and raised in Venezuela, and my family was Chilean. So as you know, Catholicism is like a deep part of Latin American culture, even for people that don't want to admit it. So yeah, my family they weren't like deeply religious. They weren't religious actually, but we attended mass and things like that mainly because of cultural events like Palm Sunday, or like the Holy Week, or like, let's say, the mass associated with Christmas, things like that. And when I mainly learned about the religion for sure, it was by attending the catechism classes. I don't know if you can hear the doorbell. And this is the time where we learned about like the main teachings in Catholicism. And for those who don't know, catechism is meant to prepare the individual for the first communion, and the first communion is when the person is getting prepared to get the Eucharist. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but it's basically when the priest raises a cookie looking thing, and then you eat it, and then you have the wine. Well, it's to prepare you for that basically, because basically you have to go through learning about Catholicism, and then you have to repent for your sins, things like that, and then you're gonna be ready to receive the body and blood of Christ. So that's what catechism is for. So as you know, because I said it previously, it's an educational journey about the religion, but it's also a community activity. So my catechism, it was like a thing, like a lot of children in the neighborhood that I used to live in, they joined that. So I was affiliated with some social events too. But during this time as a child, I struggled to connect with the faith, because I had a passion for science. So I would question, even when I was a little kid, this was when I was 8 or 9 years old. I would question a lot of the teachings because they felt illogical and unprovable. So even though I was attending catechism and things like that, I would not have defined myself as Catholic during this time in my life. So I have bullet points here. The thing I do have to say around this time period is that in some schools in Venezuela, right, they allow people to celebrate Christian events and things like that. So for example, when it was Holy Week, we participated in something called the Stations of the Cross, and this happens during Holy Week, and this was in my primary school. So these things I've been describing right now, they happen in a city called Maturin in Venezuela. So I attended these Stations of the Cross. The event involved praying at each station, and each station symbolized a key moment in Jesus Christ's crucifixion. So what I have to basically remark about this time is that it was one of those first times that I actually felt deeply connected to each of the prayers I was saying, and I sort of entered a meditative state as well. After the event, I felt I experienced this profound sense of spiritual fulfillment, and kind of marked one of those first events that actually made me connect to my Catholic spirituality. So this was not a turning event, but it's one of those things that I can remember from those times that I started noticing a difference. It's funny how the stage is defined. So this one is called becoming a radical Catholic. So gradually I became more devout over time, especially before moving to another city. So this other city was called El Tigre. By the time I moved to El Tigre, I yeah, I was really Catholic, and even to the point that I would define myself as being radical. um, so I began taking actions that reflecting like my strong beliefs. And one example I can say, and I think this happened before I moved to El Tigre, was that I discarded some books, like I threw them to the rubbish, because I deemed them as inappropriate or misaligned with my faith. You see what I mean? That's why I kind of think I was entering into some radicalization. Even though I say this and I keep saying the word radical, I do have to emphasize that I noticed a lot of positive changes in my persona as I went through this like devout Catholic phase in my life. Because, for example, I remember that as a child, I was very mean, and I was kind of troublesome. And like I didn't have particularly strong morals, and that is common in any child, really. But then for me, I do remember that I was kind of like that. I was kind of mean and rude, things like that. So going through this, it made me become kinder to everyone and more thoughtful as well. And there was a shift there for sure. So yeah, obviously nowadays I wouldn't fucking throw books to the rubbish or things like that. Or there were other things associated with this radical period that I'm not gonna really say right now because they're kind of personal. But yeah, those things that obviously I wouldn't do them. But then I cannot deny that there was a shift in my personality. That's the thing. And I think now that I look back at it, I think I needed to go through like those strong beliefs, because it really changed like my persona, and now I have this like appreciation for the other, this kindness, this like things that I used to take for granted before. And obviously, like I don't think you need religion for that, but in my case, like religion, especially Christianity, helped me a lot with that. So now this time period is called living as a radical Catholic in El Tigre. So yeah, in this time, this was when I was in 5th and 6th grade, so primary school. As I said, I developed an intense devotion to Catholicism. And as a kid during these times, I used to love using my computer. So I used to go to the internet like all the time, but not to play games or things, just to like research things. So I researched Catholicism, Christianity in general, extensively to deepen the understanding that I had of my faith. So I remember that I used to just sit down like in my computer for hours and just do that instead of doing like typical child things. Another thing that I can say about this time period, also I have to remind you that when I wrote all of these, some of these things are hard to remember because they happened years ago. Like again, I was like during this time, yeah, I've described when I was 8, 9, and at this time I think I was 10 years old. But yes, I was saying like I remember during this time when I was 10, I faced some bullying. Because I was kind of like outspoken about my faith. But again, because it's happened so long ago, I don't remember if it's because of that, and I think this is more accurate, it's because during that time I was kind of seen as like a weird kid by others. So that plus the fact that I was very Catholic, it made me like an easy target. So I do remember that there was some bullying associated with that, but I can't recall specific details really. So yeah, it was like a combination of his faith and my personality that just set me apart from like how other kids were. So yeah, another thing I have to like tell about this time period, which is kind of related to the bullying really, is that I remember like I built like a small temple and I built it with stones, and I even painted it, things like that. It was like this like nice small Christian temple I made. And I had it like outside the house, like in one of the big trees that we used to have. I remember taking some holy water from church. I don't know how, I can't remember how, but I just took some and I blessed the temple with the holy water. And I do remember like there used to be like a football club outside neighborhood, and a lot of people used to go to that football club. And I remember like my house used to be in one of the main streets, I think, if you can call it that. So like when they were going back to their places after football practice, they used to pass by my house basically, and it was like a big group of guys. And then yeah, they used to pass by and destroy the temple I built. I don't know why, but they used to do that every time. And it would have been different now, obviously. But I remember at the time I was kind of like Gandhi, so I wouldn't really like actively complain to them or, get. I would like. So when they did that, obviously I was in my house minding my own business or doing other stuff. So then I would come back and like rebuild the temple. So then they would destroy it again. I would rebuild it. And it was like a cycle, and I think if I'm not mistaken, they actually stopped because it was like, well, this guy like he keeps like rebuilding it. I think if I'm not mistaken, that's what happened, or they probably destroyed it like completely. That it was to the point that it was, I was not able to like rebuild it. I can't remember very well, but I think it was more the first one. But yeah, I do remember that cycle that they would come by, destroy, and I would rebuild it. It would be different now. I think right now, if something similar happened to me, I would definitely confront them. I don't even mind how many people are in that group. Because yeah, they're invading the space in my house basically at that point. So yeah, this kind of symbolized like the resilience that you can see that I had about my faith. Interesting thing about this time period, obviously I was forming all these ideas and things when I was like becoming really Catholic, and I remember I had this like different vision about sports. And for example, when I was in Maturin, I was a very good tennis player, and I was like playing tennis in this like really professional center in Maturin. I forgot the name, but it was like it's kind of recognized. So yeah, there was tennis in the neighborhood I used to live in El Tigre. The neighborhood was called San Tomé, right? And I remember it like I left tennis. Well, yeah, first because of the religious beliefs, because I used to believe at that point that like competitive sports and things like that, they were like an encouragement of ego and an encouragement of like animalistic behaviors. So like basically all these mundane things that just kind of corrupt you instead of improving you really. So I used to believe in that when I was like 10, 11. So yeah, I left tennis. But the other reason, and I'm not gonna deny, it's because like there was like a significant change from playing tennis in Maturin to like playing tennis there. Like I remember the facilities were not that good. And like we had a change like in one of the tennis coaches that we used to have, so yeah, he was quite bad. So that plus that made me just leave tennis, and it ended up leaving me not practicing sports. And to give another example, I remember that during that time, like during that time period and in that place, like karate was becoming a bit popular, if I'm not mistaken. And there used to be a dojo that used to be kind of close to my house. So yeah, obviously like I got some people asking me like why do I not join it and things like that, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna join it because even though yeah like you preach that it's for self-defense, there is definitely necessary violence associated with it, and I'm not gonna do that because it's against my beliefs. And if you ask me now that I look back at all of this, it's not that wrong that a lot of times competitive sports and people that practice them, they do it to encourage their egos, and I've seen it, especially when I started joining sports in uni. Like they're definitely like cocky ass people doing sports, you know what I mean? And like, or doing it for like very animalistic reasons, or like, not for like their personal growth or like any kind of like more deeper reason than just very like mundane things really. So it's not very wrong because I've seen it with my own eyes, but obviously I've also met people that like they did martial arts because of very pure reasons. And then that comment that I used to have back then about like karate in that case or any other martial art, obviously there was a massive shift because I ended up doing taekwondo for 4 years when I joined uni, and I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 1 year. So obviously I don't think the same anymore, but I do think that more people than they want to recognize do martial arts for the wrong reasons. Yeah, I'll say that. And I do believe that a lot of people, if they don't have a good teacher, they will, I don't know, it will encourage thoughts that should not be there. I'll just say that. And you know, things like that, right? So like, at least when I used to do martial arts, yeah, I tried to do them for pure reasons or whatever, but yeah. So I do have to say that during this whole time when I was really Catholic and things like that, yeah, my family wasn't involved in this. Like, again, it was like a process that I carried out by myself. And I even chose to like hide some things from them, so they would know that I was really devout, but like they wouldn't see a lot of the things. Like, I don't think they saw when I was building the temple and things like that, for example. So I kept a lot of things like hidden from them. So yeah, they weren't really a part of this whole thing anyways, and if anything, they were trying to encourage me, and if they saw anything negative, they would try to help me out. But yeah, as you can see, like, I was going through this whole thing, and I was basically like isolated, because there was no one that I could probably share this with, or no one that would understand what I was going through, in a way. So it was like a very solo journey that obviously has its downsides, but it also has like positive things. And again, like I said, I don't really believe in I kind of believe in no regrets when it comes to life. Obviously I can elaborate further on that, but it's because like everything is for a reason. Like, so I feel like being isolated doing that and being isolated in other stuff in my life, it definitely helped me in ways that if it didn't happen, I would be different now. So yeah, I wanted to now talk. So again, this is like more of a quick video, but I think it's quite a lengthy video right now. But yeah, I'm not saying too many details. I'm not talking about the religion itself, because that could be like videos for later, right? So I'm just saying the details about each like stage. So now I'm gonna talk about the impact of Gnosticism on my beliefs. And I mentioned Gnosticism because, again, at this time I was a devout Catholic, and I remember like summer before starting first year, as we call it, and that's when you enter middle school in Venezuela. So basically that summer between primary school and middle school, again, through the internet, research, using sources that some people might think they're not good, or some people might think they are good, I don't know. But yeah, I was like researching a lot of things, and obviously I started getting into conspiracy theories in general. Yeah, I could see like some of them were kind of true, some of them were kind of like, you could see that you were like, come on, man. But yeah, I was getting a lot into that, and obviously at some point they were addressing like Catholicism, Christianity, things of that nature. And then after that, that's when I got exposed to Gnosticism. So I discovered like this belief system, and even though people call it Gnosticism, it's actually there's a lot of variations, and within that there's like Christian Gnosticism, and even that one has some variations, and it's very hard to explain it because no one really practices that religion nowadays. You could say it's dead. So yeah, this religion, to study it, it's quite hard because it's from back then. Like, even some people argue like one of the first Christian groups were Gnostic, so it's from like back then. But like the reason it was like a shock to me, it's because their core ideas were like the opposite of like other religions, right? So I got exposed to this idea that the creator of the material world is actually like seen as a malevolent figure. They call him the demiurge, and that he has this like material world as a prison where he traps the spirits in this flawed material existence. And then the true God, so like he would be, the demiurge would be like a minor flawed God, and then the true God is called incognoscible, which is like a higher spiritual entity which is beyond the material reality, beyond this earth, beyond like the material realm of things, right? And yeah, this when I got exposed to this, it really challenged my beliefs, and because the material world was seen as evil, and gods like Yahweh, Allah, were seen as like manipulative inventions from this minor god, so that like us humans would worship him. So yeah, there were some radical interpretations of some known religious figures. So for example, some branches of Gnosticism, they see Lucifer as a liberator instead of the bad guy that we know, because he offered the knowledge through the apple, as we know in the Genesis story. This knowledge was like, well, you actually an enslaved spirit in this, trapped in this material world, in this evil material realm of things. So it's more like a liberator, gave the apple to free humanity, things like that. And some variations see Jesus as sent from the incognoscible to free the spirits. And they even think that the traditional beliefs associated with Jesus, they're like distortions to like mislead humanity. So yeah, it had like as you can see, like it had an impact on me. And why did it have an impact on me? This one, not other religions, let's say, because when I saw other religions, because obviously I explored like other ones, like Judaism, Islam, or Buddhism is quite different too. But for example, in Islam, like it's actually quite similar to Christianity, as we all know. Judaism is quite similar too. So it's like, well, at that point when you're really religious, like it's more easy to like argue like, oh well, but it's like people trying to explore the truth, but they're not quite there. Obviously I don't think about like that anymore, but at the time when I was really religious, it was kind of like that. It's like, oh well, there's people exploring, like trying to find the truth, but they're not quite there. But then when I saw this religion, which is like the antithesis, it's like the polar opposite. It's like it's quite a shock, and then you get a lot into it, and it's like you also get a lot into like how the people that made the Bible, they like censor these books like that were from Gnostics. Yeah, there's some conspiracies associated with that. So yeah, it made me question some things. It's not like I believed in some of that at any point, but it was like the fire that like started the doubts about the truthfulness of what I was believing. So during this time, I do remember like I adopted a hybrid belief system. Now I was trying to remember why, like what were the reasons for this, but I couldn't recall specific reasons. And I do know myself that there were definitely specific reasons, but I couldn't really recall it. So in this hybrid belief system, I would blend Gnosticism and Catholic teachings. So that was something very interesting. So I think, for example, I do remember I never came to the point of believing that like the creator was evil, like a minor god. Like I still believed in one god, but I believed that this like evil material world was probably more like a test, I guess. So I do remember that, but I did believe that like a lot of the material things, like I should not be pursuing them like at all. So I should only be looking at like spiritual things. So like I was focused solely on my spiritual matters and rejecting materialism entirely. As a 12-year-old. So yeah, viewing materialism as evil brought like humility and restraint, but also like, as you can imagine, like I was like a young kid, so I do argue that there was obviously some like emotional and psychological weight to that when you strongly start believing this. So yeah, during this time, like I think like most of the society continued to see me as like eccentric, and yeah, all of this kind of deepened the isolation feelings that I used to have. But again, now that I look back at it, it's like this whole thing was just hella interesting. So I obviously think there were benefits. So now we are entering into the stage of exploring other religions and shifting perspectives. So I began exploring other religions like properly this time, because as I said, like Gnosticism and conspiracy theories were the things that like definitely taught me like, look, you do not know at the end of the day if any of this is true. You know, like the Catholic Church could be properly corrupted. People could be telling you lies that were founded 2,000 years ago, or distortions of it to follow some agenda, you know, things like that. So that's when it started. So I started like exploring other religions, like I said, and I do have to mention, like, I read a lot about Buddhism, and I really appreciated it as it's more like a philosophy and a religion, isn't it? So I like that one quite a lot. I still do till this day. So the thing is, like, after all of this, I moved to Saudi Arabia, right? So I was there for 2 years, and when I did that, then I went to the UK and I did my GCSEs, my A levels, things like that. I did uni in the UK as well. So I think, from like the moment I was in Saudi Arabia onwards, the religious exploration kind of lessened. Because obviously I guess I was like starting to just become more focused on academics and other things like sports or gymming, and then these life transitions, like, they took priority over like my spiritual discovery. And it was also because I was having some sort of fatigue about truth seeking, because I kind of learned that there's no absolute truth. Like, I feel like a lot of these concepts, of course, to like some people, they're quite obvious, but I don't think it's quite the same when you actually try to go through it, and then you just kind of discover that there is really no absolute truth, at least till now. So, and then I started just shifting the focus more on like more objective things or practical pursuits during my free time. So I kind of lessened that, like my deep affiliation with like spiritual discovery. Again, I feel like this video, like a lot of things I'm saying, they could be videos in itself. But yeah, this is like the first of these yapping videos that I'm gonna be doing, so I feel like it can be short. So where I stand now, that it's called the latest stage. So Christianity's place, so Christianity still retains a special place in my heart. Like, many people that know me, they that know me personally really well, they know that, because like core values like forgiveness, unconditional love, humility, things like that from the New Testament, it still guides me till this day, like, greatly. So, and for example, I still sometimes continue to wear a cross. So I think that's why a lot of people that get to know me, they think I'm proper Christian, when I don't know, at this point, like, I wear it, but it's not because of its objective symbolism, but more because of what it means to me, like the personal meaning that it has to it. So yeah, my current identity, as I said at the beginning of the video, is that I define myself as just spiritual, but not religious, and I have an agnostic outlook on things. But thinking about it, I do tend to favor Christianity due to personal bias, of course, because and my perceived coherence in like its teachings, right? And also, like, I do know, like, again, I'm not, like, I wouldn't define myself as Christian, but like I do know like some evidence about why some things in Christianity are true or could be true. And I admit that this could be just me not exploring the other evidences for the other religions as much. But for example, to say an example from Christianity, I can mention like the Shroud of Turin. And for those who don't know about it, it's an ancient linen, so how you say in English, I don't know, bearing an image believed to be Jesus's burial cloth. And it's mysterious, and it's connected to like biblical accounts that continue to fascinate researchers. Because there's even like a theory that like obviously when Jesus died and he was in that place that we all know of, then obviously he had the burial cloth, and the theory is that when he resurrected, then he was kind of like projecting this radiation, and that's what the Shroud of Turin is. That's like one of the latest theories that I've heard of. But yeah, again, I don't know if it's entirely true, but I would be, if it is, it would be sick. I have to say, like, I found like 2 years ago, like I found value in like literature that could be classified as atheist. And for example, I have to mention A Universe from Nothing by Lawrence Krauss. Yeah, Krauss. Yeah, it's a book that basically makes you challenge your ideas about the existence of the whole universe, pretty much. And it tries to say that there's no need for a creator. Like, apparently in terms of physics, you can have a universe that comes from nothing. That's why the title of the book. And like, he explains why, basically. So I mentioned that book because it was the first piece of literature that, you know, after reading that, it made me really question, like, I was like, damn, you know, like regarding atheism. So future possibilities, well, I'm unsure where the spiritual journey will lead at this point, and it depends on how much I invest in it. And with how things are going in my life, I don't think I'm gonna become like a, you know, like a wizard in his like whimsical place trying to research the truth and like having like ancient manuscripts. No, I don't think I have like time for that right now. And I would try to, at the moment, focus on more like objective and practical things, really. But yeah, of course, anytime I do have free time, I still try to explore some aspects. I don't know, like I'm open to returning to Christianity even if things change. Like for example, not last year, like some months ago, during June, like I just started watching like all of these like Christian videos again, and it kind of like made me like feel like a beat, like my heart wanted to be part of that again, if that makes sense. But yeah, on my own terms, like if I would come back to Christianity, I think I could be classified as a Catholic, but I just wouldn't believe in the institutional or Vatican structures as when I was 10 years old, because I just don't believe in that. So in that sense, would I really be Catholic? Because like, you need to believe in that. But if you know what I'm saying, right? Or I could be a Christian on my own means, right? And that's what a lot of people do nowadays. They define themselves as Christian, but like they do it on their own like means and interpretations of things. So I could do that probably, but don't know. Well, this is the first video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm talking kind of like low. I would talk more like loudly, but it's because, you know, the place I'm in, like they can perfectly hear everything I'm saying, and it's kind of late right now. It's like late at night, so I'm not talking very loud. But thank you very much for listening.